The secret, for me, a huge thing, especially in the last year and a half, has been figuring out who has done what I'm trying to do before. Because, pretty much every task you're going to try to do, time you want to create something, someone before you has done it or done something similar.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And today is a special day as we have our first ever guest on the channel. That's right. First ever guest. We have Hudson Parris here today. Hudson is an architect. I've seen your work. You do super creative stuff. And we're going to get a chance to pick your brain about creativity and the creative process and creative industries in general. For all of you viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Give Hudson a digital round of applause, however you do that. I don't know, clappy face comments, something like that. Clappy emoji comments. Clappy face comments don't exist. So without any more craziness from me, Hudson, tell us a little bit about why you chose architecture and what you see in the architecture field.
That's a hard question for sure, because I think partly I did not choose architecture. In a certain sense, it found me. I think, some creatives certainly go into the field because they're like, yes, I 100% want to do this. And then the other half of us go into it out of some other reason. Someone told us to, out of necessity or something. And then once we're in it, we're just hooked. This is awesome. And I was definitely the second one. I was like, oh, architecture, I don't know what that is, but that sounds kind of cool. And so I actually applied to architecture school and got in on the premise that I was thinking I was going to be being a businessman, leading a team of people. I was very much into organization, people, team building, that kind of thing. That was what I was interested in. And then I got in, and they're like, hold on, we have to teach you how to do architecture.
So did somebody tell you, did you have somebody in your life that was like, Hudson, you should be an architect, you'd be great at this? Or
I did, yeah. Well, my mom was like, oh, Hudson, you love drawing, so you should be an architect. But I knew an architect was a family friend. And I was like, hey, what is this architecture thing? Can you tell me about it? And he didn't so much tell me go do it. He was just like, well, this is what I do every day. And so I was like,
I think sometimes we overlook the value of being able to shadow people in our career and see what they do. And sometimes that can be all it takes to just inspire us to go out and want to do that, want to create. So I know that was very similar for me as well, just being around creatives who did design work, and it almost rubs off on you the excitement of the creativity. When you think about the broad concepts of creativity and the creative process, what does that mean to you now that you've kind of come into your creative your own self creatively? I guess
been in the field for a little while. Oh goodness, what a question. Creativity, I used to view a creative person as this sort of mythos, this hero of, oh, that's a creative person. Oh, they're so smart. They're so, they live on the edge and they sort of dip their toes, into the, I had this mythological view of the creative process. And having been in it for a bit longer, I feel like the creative process for me now is less of this thing that you're born with, or less of this unattainable mythos thing, and it's really more of a skill, is what I've come to find out, and it's a lot more work oriented than I thought it would be. It's less of this creative brilliance that all of a sudden comes to you and you get an idea to do something, and it's more of oh, you can actually tease out creativity with work. You can actually, if you feel like you have not a creative bone in your body at all, but you study all of the greats before you, if you show up every single day and you put in the work, you can tease out a certain amount of creativity. And so the creative process has become less mythological to me, more and these days it's more of this, how do I manipulate my current situation to bring out the most creative thing I can.
Yeah. Wow, that's really
So-
good. I do think that's just like so true. We're all born creative. It's just, do we take the opportunity to chase that creativity and
Sure.
and put in the work? About your work and your process, like,
Yeah.
what have you learned through that process as far as creativity becoming almost more of a skill and less of a creative, or less of a mythological or innate trait that people might have? Yeah.
Yes.
What's the secret there to kind of developing those skills?
The secret, for me, a huge thing, especially in the last year and a half, has been figuring out who has done what I'm trying to do before.
Mm-hmm.
Because, pretty much every task you're going to try to do, time you want to create something, someone before you has done it or done something similar. So in my field, in architecture, if I'm going to design a house, I'm going to look at people that have designed houses, but not just a house. I'm going to look at, okay, I'm designing a house in the prairie for a, cinematographer. I'm going to go find houses in the prairie for cinematographers, or, something similar. And I'm going to try to find everybody that's done this before me and learn everything I can from them.
Yeah.
And then that's the base that I want to start on, of what all has been done before and how do I go forward from there.
Really, the base of gathering inspiration.
Yeah.
And learning from the things that have been done that maybe haven't worked in the process. And I know we do the same thing at my branding agency. When people come, we want to put together a list of other companies that have done the same thing or in the same industry or have the same style of brand that the client wants, and make sure that, because like you said, there's nothing new. So make sure that we are taking into account what's been done before. So that's really good. Yeah, I think that is a crucial part of any creative process too. So
Yeah. And letting go of that mythos of, it's okay if I'm gonna do something that someone's done before, like let go and just be okay with, maybe I'm gonna copy something and put my own twist on it, and, being okay with that.
Yeah, I had a great mentor that always said that, like, there's nothing new creatively under the sun. It's just interpretations of what other people have done.
Yeah.
And people, when they see your work, they never look at the house that you designed and think, oh, well, I can see he was just ripping off of these 25 other people that built a house in the prairie, because they don't know what those 25 other people have done, but they see your work and they're inspired by it, and then you become part of that process for somebody else, which is really neat.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool part of creativity, is being able to share and give back in that way. What kind of challenges going forward do you see for yourself or the creative industry in general? As we kind of move into a new decade, more computers, powerful software, what challenges are we facing?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this morning. Interestingly enough, right now, the creative field is in a spot where more people have the most access to learn the skills or to get the exposure to go do something creatively. I mean, right now you can learn photography on the internet, as I am doing. I'm an architecture student, but I'm trying to learn photography, and I'm trying to learn graphic design on the internet, so I can use these skills for my architecture. But right now, you can have zero experience, zero college education, and go learn to be a photographer, a graphic designer, maybe an architect. That one's a little bit more, that one's a bit trickier, but you can do it. There's enough, I've found enough resources on the internet. I could probably, learn architecture on the internet. So right now we're in an interesting spot where you have the most amount of people that are going to do that, and it's, where is that going to take us? Is this an awesome, most people are saying this is an awesome time to be a creative, because everybody's doing it. Everybody has access to it, and that's great, and that's really taking us somewhere. And then, of course, there's the flip side of it of, oh no, if are we going to be overexposed with creativity? You know, is there so much out there right now that, you know, stuff feels a little bit bland now? You know, has it lost its touch, or like, you know, where is the new bar? Where do we go, you know, with this, and how do we use this to the best of our advantage? I don't know, I'm speaking broadly, but
yeah, well, I think that makes sense, and we have to kind of come to our own conclusion as to where we stand on that. I think that for me personally, the increase of creatives is just it's more milk, but the cream's gonna rise to the top.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I think that what we'll see is a higher level of creativity since we have more creatives out there in the field and doing that stuff. And so maybe we'll get to a point where there's a little bit more diversification in quality of creative, and I think we've seen that already with the boom of in my industry at least, Upwork and Fiverr, and people being able to go out there and buy a logo for $20 from somebody in a foreign country who's willing to take $20 American because it's so much cheaper than the other currency. But yet we still see that the biggest agencies, the best creatives, the ones that are inspiring the most or doing the best work are the ones that are still staying true to the creative process, continually learning, pushing themselves to get better, and really, you know, forcing their way to the top of the pool. So
well, and another aspect of it also is the fact that as we are seeing more creatives, and we're also seeing a divergence of things you know, within fields, a divergence, you know, because there's not just one style anymore of graphic design, of architecture, of creativity. You know, as things become more popular, we're also seeing, how do I put this into words? There is...
I like this. Keep expounding on this part. Okay. I'm trying to track with you.
I'm struggling to bring this together.
I feel like I know what you're getting at.
What I'm getting at here is music, for instance, would be an easy way to explain this. In the music field, you know, we saw, I'm going to go really far back here, but we saw in the 1700s there is, you know, only a few types of music, you know, that are popular. And pretty much everyone's going to listen to these you know, Renaissance music, classical music, then it moves into the Baroque, and then after the Baroque, it moves into the Romantic period. And there's a number of other fields, like there's Eastern music, there's Middle Eastern music, and within those, there's a few fields. But, you know, there's not a lot of genres in music. And then we get into the early 1900s, and we start to see it diverge into lots of different fields of music. By the time the 1950s come, we have jazz, rock music is just starting to come out, and there's even still the classical people doing orchestra and that sort of thing.
Do you think that was part of the ease of access to be able to make music?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do think it was. And so now, you know, fast forward, now how many music genres do we have? You know, Spotify told me I listened to 300 music genres this year, which I didn't even know there were.
I didn't even know. I know, I got the same thing.
So we see exactly what you were talking about. You know, the cream of the crop rises to the top, but, you know, within that, you can be the best in Baroque classical music right now. You can be producing creative rap music, country music, rock music. And so it's not just the music industry, it's every single creative field is seeing, you know, little niches go off.
Yeah.
And so...
Do you think that eventually we'll get to a point where we see creative agencies that specialize in not just like a type of creativity such as architecture, but actually a style of we only do, I mean, we see this a little bit, but like even more specific of like we only do this genre of our wide realm of creativity?
100%. Maybe not in the graphic design business field. I can't think of an example of that, but I know in the architecture field there are, you know, a number of architects that do their style of building. And if you want that architecture style, you go to them. They're not an architect who's going to build, you know, maybe they're not even going to build what you want. They're just going to build what they do. And so if you want that, you go to them and they're going to do that for you. So it'd be interesting to see in, other creative fields. Is that coming, or is there are there certain fields that are immune to diversification?
I don't think there's any field that's immune to diversification.
Yeah.
I know in design, there are design studios that do specialize in one type of style, and they almost recycle like the same style, but they get a lot of clients that want that exact style recreated. And I do think, I was actually asking you a little bit of a rhetorical question, because I think the answer is definitely yes. I think the answer is definitely yes.
Yeah.
That we are going to see creative fields kind of like, or creative agencies in general, kind of genre in their own field. And so that begs a question for the creative designer, or whether you're a website builder or whatever, what is my area of expertise that I'm going to decide to go deep in? And maybe I can say, well, I do offer, services on these other branches of creativity in my skill set, but this style, or this, design, or this whatever is mine, and this is what I do, and I design like this, and it's inspired by these greats, and if you want this style, come to me. I think we all have to kind of like ask ourselves that question a little bit.
Definitely.
As you kind of express yourself creatively on the internet and in person to people, what are kind of some of the challenges that you run into with people's like perceptions of creative professionals?
That is an interesting question. When I was in architecture school, there was a big pushback against forward design thinking, I guess you can say. Things like curvy buildings, sort of architecture that is unconventional. That was sort of the stuff that was shunned in our school, and it was very frustrating to me, because I was like, this is what a lot of people are doing right now. They're doing this sort of forward thinking architecture, and they've been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
This is very old. It's not even like we're just not embracing the newest thing. We are not embracing the newest old thing, and that's setting us back. And so I know with my professors, with classmates, I kind of had to just own, okay, I have to be really self-driven, because they're not going to give me, they're not going to push me creatively. They're not going to accept what I'm trying to do. And it also led me, I have to own it myself, and I have to go find what I can. I have to find the person that's the most interested in what I'm interested in, and get them to critique that. And at work, I was able to find people that were challenging me, getting me to kind of do that sort of thing. So
I think to be a professional in the creative industries, you really have to have the self-motivation to study.
You do.
And work on your own creativity.
You do.
So
I will say one of the biggest things, and this was a recent project that I did, I was actually proposing, I had some issues with the basic prompt for our design. It was I felt like what they were wanting, I couldn't give because of the prompts of the field. And I realized, I knew what I wanted to do, but I realized I can't just come out and do what I want to do and say, no, you're wrong, I'm right. What I had to do was actually, explain my reasoning and sort of bring everyone up to speed, and be like, I'm gonna hold back just a little bit, and I have to explain absolutely everything I'm doing, so that they understand, okay, these are the issues I have with the brief, and this is what I did, and I didn't just do it because I wanted to do it. This is exactly why, every single thing. And it forced me to have an explanation for everything, and say, this is why I did this, this is why I did this. And at that point, while I did receive pushback initially when I said this is what I want to do and these are the reasons why, as I explained things, I actually got my professor, all my classmates on board. They were like, everything you're doing makes sense. It's ridiculous, but you've explained absolutely everything you're doing, and so we can't say no. And so it was a really successful thing that was,
That's an awesome story. I think that as creatives, that's what's going to set the best creatives apart.
Yeah.
Are the ones that they're not just being paid for a skill set. They're being paid for, in that essence, creativity. They saw the problem and they were able to diagnose the problem and then overcome it with a solution that maybe even went against the client's original idea.
Yeah.
But you were able to explain, like, listen, because of my expertise, this is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And I know that this is the problem and this is why we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we really create value as creatives.
Definitely.
Which is super awesome.
Definitely.
So.
And be nice. Smile when you're telling them they're wrong.
Thank you so much, Hudson. Is there anything
Yes.
that you want to tell creatives, aspiring creatives, people that are just looking to become better in their field? Any advice or words of wisdom that you have for them?
Keep watching YouTube videos. Keep reading books. Don't stop. The day you stop watching YouTube videos, the day you stop watching how-to videos is the day you stop progressing. So, yeah, never stop.
Very
Whether
good.
you're starting out or whether you're done. Yeah, keep on going. Autoplay. Let the autoplay count down. Yeah.
Burn a lot of late nights watching a lot of YouTube,
Yes,
reading a lot of
exactly.
blog posts.
Exactly.
All right, thank you so much. That reminds me, on that note, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Hit the subscribe button.
For sure.
Get that bell, notification bell, so you don't miss any of the videos that have coming out. We've got a lot of great content planned, and I'm super excited to see where 2021 takes the creative industry. Thank you again so much for joining us, Hudson.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next video.